Okay, good afternoon class and welcome back to Science 10. Today we're on lesson 10 and we are going to be focusing on extinctions again, but in the modern world. Looking at something that's more recent than the millions and millions of years ago when we lost the dinosaurs and all of that marine life due to things like ice ages and volcanoes, asteroids. Today we're going to be looking at what's causing extinction in modern times. Modern times, we mean a lot when humans have been populating this earth, and how are they responsible. So at the end of it, we'll have some questions referred to as Science 10, Assignment 10. So let's start. Now, we know that humans have had a big effect on other organisms. One of the ways is, if you look around, cities are getting bigger. Toronto's like 5 million people. Cities like Mexico City, 20 million people. In China, they have hundreds of cities that are millions, a million or more. Not just Shanghai and Beijing. Tokyo, it's the largest city in the world, it's like about 22 or 25 million people. And what happens is, as they make bigger cities, they cut away the forest. And not only do they cut down trees to make roads, but the farmland. They need more farmland. They need more food to feed all those people. So every time you make a bigger farm or you burn a forest down, make a bigger city, you're pushing organisms out of their home. And that's why we see a lot of roadkill now. And you notice around here, we have a lot of moose fences on the highway, because mooses are dangerous. When they come out and people hit them, they get killed. So now they have to put fences on the side of the road to stop the moose from coming out. The poor moose, you know, their flies are driving them crazy. They're looking for water and food, so, you know, and there's more roads for them to come out on and get hit. So we've had a profound effect. Now, both animals, people and animals, have the same needs. They both need a home. We need a home, they need a home. They need food and water, just like we do. They need to do what they do every day, okay? My dog, I take her for a walk. She has to go to every corner and smell other dogs' pee. She sees a dog, she got to do a butt smell. That's what dogs do. Other animals, you know, the squirrel's got to look for food, store it away. Every animal has something to do every day. Most of them are hunting for food. Unfortunately, we're killing things for nothing. Now, it's nothing wrong with killing animals for food. That was done for hundreds of years. When the First Nation people were here, they only killed for what they needed. They only killed for food. But when the white man came, it changed. And a lot of that, there was a lot of needless killing, just for sport. And it's not just white men do it now. Even some First Nation people do it. Not a lot. I mean, as a nation, they respect it more than we do. But I know when I work with some people up in northern Ontario, Manitoba, I've seen it firsthand, where it's not just for food now, it's for sport. They'll go out, you know, and with their guns. Anyway, that's another story. Polluting the environment. If we add chemicals and stuff to the water, to the air, then they're going to get sick too. So polluting the environment affects the animals and the plants. And if we destroy animals' natural habitat, that's where they live, the forest, where are they going to go? We can't put them all in zoos. A lot of them won't breed well. They won't reproduce in zoos very well. And we clear out the land for farming, make roads and buildings. That's how we destroy their homes. We upset the ecosystems, especially if we sometimes bring another animal into that area where it's not supposed to be there. It'll start taking over. And that's what happened. You'll see in the next lesson, I'm going to talk about wolves. When they take wolves away from one area, it allows the coyote to take over. And then there's other animals like the elk, which doesn't have a wolf around to hunt it, will start eating too much of the plant food and hurts the other animals. And by bringing in foreign plants and animals, now I remember you wrote one the other day, we talked about zebra mussels. Those mussels bringing into the Great Lakes, they came from Europe. But what's happening is that they're competing with all the other shellfish in the Great Lakes, and they're killing it off because they are ferocious eaters. They take more food than the other shellfish there. So that's how they hurt. That's how humans are taking that balance off. If I can bring this up just a bit more. There we go. The last one I have here is when we lose animals, we don't know how affected this delicate balance of nature. Like I said, everything is connected. So if you destroy one thing like a plant, then you're hurting the food source for another animal. If you kill that animal, then you're affecting the food source for another animal. So it's all taken out of balance. Now, if there's other species coming in there and they come in, there's going to be competition. Okay? There's natural competition. You know, like rabbits and mice will compete for the same food. That's okay. But if you bring in an animal that doesn't belong there, and the mice and the rabbit can't compete with it, then they're the ones that are going to starve to death. If a new species enters that would eat the same food, they've got to compete with it. So here you can see this fox fighting with this, it's almost some sort of a goose, I guess, eh? They're competing for the same food. Here, if you put a tiger in with a bear, they're both predators, they're both animal eaters, they're going to start competing for the same food. But we're better if we have tigers over in India and Africa, and you know, the bears are over here, so they have different habitats. A species is better at finding food, reproducing, defensive territory, could force another one into extinction. So, who would be the better there? We don't know. I mean, if they're competing for the same food, then over time, one of those animals are going to die off, and then we're going to lose it. Okay, so, oops. So, what does extinction do? What does the effect of extinction when we lose the animals? We lose that species. We lose something that was there before, and it reduces what we call the biodiversity, the difference. We don't want to have everything the same. I mean, you heard about people who try to eat McDonald's hamburgers every day. Not only will they get obese, but they're going to get sick of it after a while. You want to change the food. Well, we want to change in our diversity in our animals and organisms as well, or life is going to be very boring. So biodiversity, by definition, is the number of species in an ecosystem, and every one in that system is connected somehow. They're not isolated. They're not a hermit, just like us. You cannot live by yourself. I met a guy, I remember years ago, working on northern Manitoba. He was on an island, all there by himself. And when he went into town, about maybe once a month to get his food, he would stop into the bar. He would sit at the table, and he'd be talking to himself for an hour, sitting there drinking a beer, no one around him, because kind of Lulu. You have to connect with people. Okay, you get bushed. You're going to get. You got to have connections. So how can a species be saved from extinction? It doesn't mean that it's impossible. Here are some things we can do. We can put them in a controlled environment so that we can at least help them improve on their age. They did that with the buffalo. There was hardly any buffalo left, and they started putting them in parks or areas, big areas where they could be protected, and they started to grow in number. So yes, it's bad for a while. These leopards, you put them in an environment, but you keep them away from the poachers, the killers, the ones that just want to get their hides and put them on a wall. I remember this when I first worked in New Brunswick down near Woodstock. I was in the bush, and they had these hunters come in from the United States, bear hunting. And it was the funny, I go through the woods and I got a hammer and a pack sack because I'm taking samples of rocks. And these guys would go in with their great big automatic weapons. They go to an area where they got beer bait. They hang, dead meat. Then they go there at nighttime, and when they walk up to it, the guy tells me, he puts his hand on the shoulder of the guy because these guys will start opening up, mowing them down, the bear, riddling it. One night, the guy comes back, he opens the tailgate of his truck, and he rolls off this cub that was no more than about, 2 feet high or less. And I said to the guy, what are you going to do with that little thing? He said, oh, I'll make a good ashtray holder. I said, what? it's sad when you see people talk that way. So some organisms can't reproduce in captivity, so we can't all put animals in a cage. Some of them have to be in the free area. And you've seen shows and movies when you're kids about born free. You've got to be able to go out and be in your natural habitat. Sometimes it's impossible for them to mate and reproduce. Sometimes they can be diseased and carry lethal genes, you know, when you catch them. And sometimes the conditions where they find them have made them sterile. Sterile means they cannot have babies. They cannot make babies. And once the population has been reduced to a critical level, sometimes if it gets too low, there's not much you can do because eventually they're going to die off. So it's like anything else. You need to have a lot of people because some of them, or not a lot of people, a lot of organisms, some will die. Some of them actually die from disease. Some will die from old age. Some will die by accident. But you've got to have enough that can take care of that so that there's going to be some left over. So the best way to protect them is let them flourish under natural conditions. What we mean there is that we got to let their natural habitat. We got to preserve areas all over Canada. And governments and places have been doing that. They won't allow logging. They're not allowing hunting so that the animals there can live in their natural habitat and reproduce under natural conditions. So yes, there are solutions. Once you start that, it causes what's called a domino effect. You know what dominoes are, eh? You push one of those things down and everything else falls down. So this is what it means. Once you take one part out, it causes the collapse of another thing because they're all connected in the food chain. It causes this domino effect. Predators keep the population of its prey in check, and prey provide an important food source. So we can see here, things like sea otters, they eat the sea urchins. Sea urchins eat kelp. Kelp is, you know, what that seaweed, and a lot of people use that for food. Not only animals, but people do. Now, if the sea otters are threatened, if they're not there anymore, then the sea urchins are going to grow in number because nothing is killing them. And if there's twice or 3 times the amount of sea urchins, then they're going to kill the kelp fields. They're going to eat too much of the food. They're going to eat so much that they can't grow again. So we got, here's our kelp, there's our sea urchins, and there's our otter. So these eat that, this eats this. So if you take this away, these are going to grow and eat all of that kelp, and that's going to be gone. And the fish that rely on kelp, it's not just people who like to eat organic food, but a lot of fish need kelp for their food source, and that will affect them. So here is the final slide on your loose leaf. So I'm just asking some questions. You can go back. How do humans affect other organisms? Okay, we talked a lot about that. How does competition lead to extinction? How does competition lead to it? And how can a species be saved? Well, we did a couple examples there, how it can be saved. Remember, putting in protective areas, but also letting it in its own natural habitat. And I want you to go on, and you can search anywhere on the internet. All you need to do is type in 6 extinction or 6 math extinction, and you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff come up. Summarize in a paragraph what it's all about. I think if you go on YouTube and just type in 6 extinction, something will come up there. So it doesn't matter which one you cut. I would take not something that's an hour. Some of them are 55 minutes. Take something that is anywhere from 2 minutes to 12 minutes. Give you a quick summary. And then all I want you to do is summarize in a short paragraph, what does it mean? What is the 6th extinction? Okay? Any questions? All right. So I'm going to shut this off, and I'll give you that handout right now.